evening, everyone. Welcome to another edition of the Daily Deuce, the Martin Luther King Jr. holiday edition, so to speak. I'm Gary Graves from Lexington, Kentucky, and in Maryland. John Webster, how you doing today, John, on this glorious day where we recognize our fine civil rights leader and recognize the accomplishments that he's done?
Hey Gary, how you doing, man? Happy Martin Luther King Jr. birthday holiday. Hopefully you're working to find a better way, as they've said over and over again in regards to the holiday. Things are going good here. Hopefully things are going good for you as well. John Pitt, how you doing?
I'm doing great. I was thinking about how you think Dr. King would feel about having Dak Prescott going up against Todd Bowles in what's going to be a highly rated watched NFL football game if he was still alive today.
I think he'd be proud in that regard of that. And I think he'd be even prouder that three brothers are discussing it on a podcast and getting our word out there.
That's right.
I'm very, very grateful to have the opportunity to cover sports all these years, have a front row seat that wouldn't have been possible if not for his work rather in getting doors open. So I'm eternally grateful for that.
Absolutely. A lot of us would not be in the situations we are without the struggles and successes that he had and others had as far as the movement, the civil rights movement. So I'm very grateful for everything that Dr. King and others have done to get us to this point. Still a lot of work to be done, but a lot has been achieved.
Yep. Our work is still ahead. So having said all that, let's just talk about, football. I mean, there's nothing to talk about but football because we just had a whole weekend full of wild card games. It wraps up tonight with Dallas and Tampa Bay, which should be another interesting game. Dallas trying to get in there. I guess what Tampa Bay, trying to win a game. Look, tonight will just get them to 500 on the season. That's how dire it is for the Tampa Bay Bucks and Tom Brady. But let's just go right into last night's game between Baltimore and Cincinnati, which was an eventful game. I guess it was decided really on a defensive play. They're still debating, his decision to try to stick the ball out there. I mean, even his own teammate, J.K. Dobbins, was saying we would have won this game if Lamar had played. Be that as it may, Lamar Jackson didn't play, and you had a quarterback who really had gotten you in position, and he made what turned out to be a fatal mistake that cost him the game. John. Well, first of all, Dobbins said that he shouldn't have been in there, which I think is a stretch because it's like, what are you going to do? It's that saying, you dance with who brung you. And I think that Huntley did everything he possibly could to get them in position. He did make a mistake, and it ended up turning into a 98-yard return. But until that point, they were that close to really taking control of that game.
They were, but last night puts even more of a spotlight on what Baltimore is missing. Huntley played. He did all he could, but let's not be mistaken. Huntley is not Lamar Jackson.
Nope.
Also on that drive when Huntley tried to quarterback sneak it. He tried to go over top. Maybe he should have gone low and tried to sneak it in that way. Or better yet, give it to J.K. Dobbins, who's been dominating the whole second half.
Yeah.
I think, and this is another subject for another day, Gary. I'll just broach it real quick. Whatever's going to happen with Lamar Jackson, the organization has to figure out. But also what they need to figure out is the offensive coordinator situation, and they have to figure out something about wide receivers. There's no, if I am a defensive coordinator, I have no fear of what the Ravens put as wideouts. I have none. No. And the offense they have is totally tailored for what Lamar Jackson does. And Lamar Jackson is a super great player.
Mhm.
Huntley tries and does all he can, but he's not Lamar Jackson. I think a lot of questions are going to have to be answered at the end of this season. They played as hard as they could, came up short, rough mistake, turned into a 98-yard touchdown the other way. What can you
Yeah.
say?
And yeah, everything you said and then some, John. The biggest thing, and again, I almost found myself screaming at the TV when that play happens. Is like, what are you doing? I mean, it was like one of those Pete Carroll moments in the Super Bowl against New England. You got a running back who's punching it in. I mean, who's gaining yards, who is dominating the game. I know J.K. Dobbins. It really does sound like sour grapes. He does make a good point though. When you're that close, you're 2 yards away, give it to the guy who is gaining yards for you. Don't try to get cute. And that's the thing that irks the heck out of me about the NFL. These coordinators are always trying to get cute and try to, be inventive or something and try to fool people. You're not fooling people at the goal line. They're playing tight anyway. Even if they were expecting to sneak, well, excuse me, they shouldn't have even been expecting to sneak. I'm going to second guess the coordinator on this one and say, just give it to the running back and let him punch it in. You had at least 2 more downs to play with there to try to punch it in, and that's the play you call. And yeah, I'm not supposed to be in the business of second guessing, but as a fan, I'm going to second guess this one.
Hey, I can't knock you for that, Gary. You mentioned the term being cute. That's a good segue into the San Diego-Jacksonville game. San Diego decided they wanted to be cute and keep throwing the ball in the second half with at first a 27-0 lead, then a 27-7 lead, and in the end they lose 31-30. So I said to Dante, I know New England's looking for an offensive coordinator. I said Brandon Staley's name may come up because I wish nothing bad on anyone, but I do not see him lasting in San Diego after what happened Saturday night. I don't see it. I don't see how you bounce back from that. That if they run the ball more instead of scoring another 25 times in the second half, they win.
Yeah, the thing about this, and I remember watching that game when it got to be 24-0, and I thought, well, there's nothing more to see here, even though they had a whole, let's say 2.5 quarters to try to make it a game. I was just thinking, boy, he's already at that point, he had already thrown 3 interceptions. He ended up throwing 4 in the first half. And my thought is, he basically was wilting on the big stage, which I really didn't expect from Trevor Lawrence, but he got it together. And to your point about how San Diego got cute, again, this one is all on San Diego as much. I mean, we can give a whole lot of credit to Jacksonville for not wilting, for coming back, for understanding that they had plenty of time. But San Diego, when you got that kind of lead, instead of trying to throw the ball, there's this thing up there on the scoreboard called the clock. And clock management, that was probably the worst. Well, we'll get into clock management with another game here in a minute. But clock management means everything in a playoff game. You try to make them, you have to make Jacksonville pass the ball, which they did. You have to make Jacksonville, you have to really make them desperate. They were desperate only because they were down 27-0. But if you stretch the clock out or something, it's like even if you punt the ball, you run 4 or 5 minutes off the clock and you really force them to have to just almost pass on every play. They didn't do that. They gave them too much time to get back in the game. And of course, you see what happens.
Well, you also mentioned wilting under pressure. I think that brings up Minnesota and the Giants. I think Minnesota wilted under pressure.
Once again. I can't look. I love Kirk Cousins when he was in Washington. I think if he was still in Washington, we're not having a discussion about who the next quarterback of the Washington football team is going to be. Having said that, I think Minnesota's offensive coordinator for calling, I guess when you're facing 4th and 8 and you throw a 3-yard pass, which effectively ends your season. That's one thing. This one, I would put on Minnesota's defense because they just could not stop New York. No matter what they did, they were forced to really have to put it in Cousins' hands. Cousins is a game manager. He is not necessarily that star guy that's going to get you 3 or 4 touchdowns unless he's having a day. He's playing out of his mind. But I'm putting this one on Minnesota's defense. They offered little to no resistance against Barkley and the Giants, and that was something at home I really didn't expect to see.
Yeah, it was rough. And Minnesota's pass defense is like 31st or 32nd in the NFL. They're not highly recommended, not highly rated. So they're gone. Now you got the Giants, and Daniel Jones is becoming a hit on Broadway all of a sudden because of what he did. Now you can't take anything away from him. He played a great game yesterday. He played really great.
He
And
managed the game. That's the thing about Daniel Jones, and I've been in his corner, pretty much since his college days. And he's a big guy. He's a guy that I feel like he doesn't have to win it with his arm. He doesn't necessarily have to win it with his feet, but if he takes off, he's a big guy to try to bring down. And that's the kind of thing that I saw yesterday at times when he had to leave the pocket, that he got yards. He made guys really think about, it's like, okay, I've got to account for him because he's got decent feet, he's got decent size. All you need sometimes in a situation like that, as opposed to if you can't sack him, try to limit how many yards he gets. But against that defense, he was able to get maybe 3 or 4 yards. He turned a negative into a positive, and that's the thing I've always liked about him. He extended the play, and sometimes he extended the field a little bit. He kept them out of really a lot of second and long, third and long situations.
Well, you're talking about quarterbacks that stepped up, extended the game, played well. Brock Purdy, whole second half against Seattle, losing the halftime 17-16. They score, what is that, 41-17? Was it 24 points in the second half? They just they put a juggernaut on. Deebo Samuel got a touchdown. That's tough when you figure out who do you stop? Kittles, Deebo Samuel, McCaffrey, Ayuki. Who do you stop? I mean, they are loaded with weapons, and I think Kyle Shanahan is the absolute perfect coach to have with Purdy. He does a very good job with it. He keeps everything going well, and then next week they're going to get either Dallas or Tampa Bay. Man, I just think it's Shanahan is a really good coach.
Yeah. I John, I can't disagree with you. That's one game I didn't see. I didn't get a chance to really see much of the Buffalo Miami game Saturday either. That from what I have read about that was another clock management game on Miami's part, probably on their part in a lot of areas. But the way that Shanahan can just pull a guy off the heap, so to speak, and turn him into a winning quarterback. Again, he's playing with house money. I feel like no matter what Brock Purdy does, he has nothing to lose. Okay, he's got a playoff game to lose, but his stock goes up nonetheless, and that speaks to the coach. But all the other names that you mentioned, that's the problem with San Francisco right now. They're playing with house money. I guess that was their 11th in a row or something like that. I can't remember how many in a row that they've won, but that might be the most dangerous team right now. And for all the talk about Philadelphia, who I still think it's their conference to lose, their conference championship to lose, that the most dangerous team in football right now are the San Francisco 49ers.
Can't disagree with you, but there's also another dangerous team. They're in the AFC, and they're called the Buffalo Bills. And they pulled one out yesterday. You mentioned the clock management. Miami struggled to get out of the huddle numerous times. Come out of the huddle, I counted at least 7 times where they had 6 seconds left on the clock to snap a play. And that's just not good. I think with them, they just didn't have enough on the offensive side. They kept hanging in there. They kept playing, but they just didn't have enough. And Buffalo is absolutely positively one of the best teams, not only in the AFC, but in the NFL.
Yeah. My only question with Buffalo, and I guess in a sense, we're already looking ahead to next week, is I'm still not convinced that defense is Super Bowl ready. I've had my questions about them. I'm trying to think of who it was, which one. It might have been Cincinnati. That they struggle against offenses much like theirs, and when you're in a postseason now, especially like if they have, say, if they get to the conference title game, and they've got to go to Kansas City. I'm not convinced of their ability to stop that offense. I'm not even convinced of their ability to stop Cincinnati this weekend. Because Cincinnati, I think like last night, they got lucky thanks to their defense. But that's one of those games where they can be very, very explosive. I think that they're also a dangerous team, not the most dangerous team. But Joe Burrow he's not a gunslinger. He's kind of cold-blooded. He didn't show it last night. They didn't show it last night. I can go into all kind of complaints about their play calling. I don't think that they used Pirine right. I mean, they had a good running back tandem that they didn't use effectively, and maybe that has something to do with Baltimore. But I'll be convinced about Buffalo if they can get past Cincinnati.
So who you picking, Buffalo or Cincinnati?
Cincinnati.
Okay, you got Cincinnati. So that puts Buffalo out of it for the rest of the season. Now, who you got next? Jacksonville or Kansas City?
Kansas City.
Kansas City it is?
Yeah.
Giants, Philadelphia.
I'm going to go with Philadelphia no matter who's starting at quarterback, because Philly's defense is good enough to stop the Giants. The Giants, again, they're playing with house money too. You win a wild card game, especially the way they won last night. They're playing the kind of ball that they needed to. They're playing the kind of ball like they showed early in the season, where they looked like they could challenge Philly. I just think Philly still just has too much, especially playing at home. Again, doesn't matter who's playing at quarterback. I think they can get it done if they figure out they don't have to rely on Jalen Hurts, who may or may not play, but don't try to put it in one guy's hands. You've got enough of a running game. You can try to keep it short. They've got tight ends that they use. That's what the Giants have to stop.
Dallas, Tampa Bay winner against San Francisco.
Okay. Dallas wins tonight. I think they get off the schneid against Tom Brady. With all due respect to Tom Brady and Tampa Bay and playing at home, they had to look for other ways to even get in the playoffs to win that division. Dallas, I still think Dallas is a team. They haven't always shown it. They haven't always been consistent, even with double-digit wins, but they still have a lot more often than not that they can win a game. And I think they can to win games, and I think they can win a game like that tonight. And I'm pretty sure John Pitt believes that as well. I know, being a Cowboy fan it is, but I just think, Tampa Bay, I think, has really kind of run its course for this season, not necessarily with Brady, but just in this season. You stumble in at 8-9. I don't care if you got home field advantage or not. You're just not that good right now.
All right. So let me see what I'm going to do. Jacksonville at Kansas City, I'm going with the Chiefs. Got the Chiefs taking that.
Mm-hmm.
Giants at Philadelphia, I'm really leery because, Gary, you know as well as I do, it's hard to beat a team 3 times in one season. Mm-hmm. I'm going to take Philly, but I'm really leery about that. Yeah. Cincinnati at Buffalo, I'm going with my man, the new Broadway Joe, Mr. Burrow. Going to roll with him and the Bengals, see what's going to happen. Mm-hmm. Now, Dallas and Tampa Bay against San Francisco. Dallas, Tampa Bay winner. Let's back up for a second. Let me tell you what I think is going to happen tonight. Mm-hmm. Dallas and Tampa Bay, John Pitt has said it's the anniversary for them as well because they won their first home game in the playoffs in 1992, blah, 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 blah. Let me tell you this. They won't win a playoff game tonight. Tonight, the blue goes home. Tampa Bay takes the Cowboys out tonight. And then Tampa Bay goes to San Francisco. Then Tampa Bay season ends against the 49ers. But tonight, my friend, Mr. Pitt, Mr. Graves, Tampa Bay will beat the Dallas Cowboys.
And that's why we watch the games. It's going to be fun because, okay, as a sports fan, purely, I want to see if TB12 has it, and that's I can't even believe I'm saying that in one sense because his record speaks for itself. But again, that team had to really overachieve just to get to 8-9, and I don't know how many times you can hope, and I mean hope, for some team to let down in the fourth quarter. A lot of that, yes, is on Tom Brady leading them back in the fourth quarter. I've seen it. Yeah, I think I've seen it at least 3 times this past season. But a lot of it, I think some teams have just let up against Tampa Bay thinking, well, he's not going to do it. They're not going to do it. I don't think Dallas gives that up if they've got a lead on the road. They got to get a lead on the road. They've got to keep their foot on the gas, and I do think they are capable of it.
We'll see tonight, man. We will see tonight. But Gary, you and I have done it again. We've blown through another show, and the time is gone. How do we do it, man? Take us home, man.
Hey, I'll tell you, when you're excited about sports, time just flies. It's like what you say, time flies when you're having fun. When we're talking about football in particular this time and sports in general, it just goes by. And of course, we are all passionate about our own teams. And even though, John, my team, well, neither of my teams are in there. After watching the games this weekend, it was just easy to kind of pick sides. I wish I had seen the Miami game because I really want to try to believe in Miami, but again, I just think that coach just does not have what it takes, or didn't have what it takes, from what I've read, to win that game. That there just seemed to be so many strategic errors in that, and that's what cost them the game. But look, this is what we look forward to next week. We will be back talking about the next round of the playoffs. We'll be talking about college basketball. We might even be talking about tennis because the Australian Open has already started, and let's see what happens with that. Talk to your friends, talk to your family, watch us on YouTube, watch us on Facebook. John, let's see you again here next week. John Pitt, good luck to your team tonight. Please make me right and make John wrong.
Hey, everybody. Another great week, another fast-moving show. Watch the game tonight. We'll talk to you again real soon. Take care.